Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be talking about major winter storm herald, which will be bringing close to blizzard conditions for portions of the northern plains, heavy snow for portions of the Ohio Valley and the interior northeast, and some extreme winds along the coast, as well as some very cold temperatures behind the storm and some severe weather for portions of the southeast and the Gulf Coast. So definitely we have a lot of different stuff and factors to talk about in today's video, including my personal snowfall forecast, which will be at the end of the video, and also we're going to be going over a couple of the different models just to see what they're showing for this event. So here's what the current National Weather Service page looks like, and definitely it's active today. We'll go from west to east. We have winter storm watches in Northern California, as well as some red flag warnings in effect for Southern California and for southeastern Kansas. We see some winter weather advisories and some winter storm warnings for northern Alaska, as well as some winter weather advisories scattered about through the Rockies, and then also scattered throughout the northern plains and portions of the Ohio Valley and the Great Lakes. We see some winter storm warnings in that pink for portions of Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Nebraska, Iowa, and then back through for West Virginia, and Kentucky, as well as Ohio there. We also see some high wind warnings in that kind of bronze color, with some wind advisories further south of there into portions of the central plains and the southern plains, where you guys are going to be dealing with some windy conditions ahead of this front. There's also some blizzard warnings in that orange type of shade over portions of Minnesota, the Dakotas, Nebraska, and into Iowa there. And then we're dealing with some winter storm watches for portions of Pennsylvania, Ohio, and into New York, as well as some more for portions of Tennessee, North Carolina, and Virginia. We also see some some flood watches actually in effect for portions of the coastal mid-Atlantic, and then back through the interior northeast until about Vermont and western Massachusetts there. That's where those flood watches sort of end. This is going to be on top of that snowpack of about 20 inches that some areas have currently, so this is definitely going to cause some flooding concerns, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on in the video. And then we have some high wind watches up for the coastal part of the northeast. Right along the coast, those immediate counties are under that high wind watch as of right now. So definitely it is a very, very active day over at the National Weather Service, and definitely if you want to see the watches and warnings, just go to weather.gov and plug that into your browser, and that's where and you'll get brought up to this page. Now here's what the GFS model is showing. We're going to play this through and see what this model is showing. So currently we actually have some snow and some blowing snow going on throughout these regions. This is eventually going to move out within the next 12 hours or so, and I think probably as you get to about probably right around 8, 9, 10 o'clock, it's back through into only portions of northeastern Minnesota to northern Wisconsin. So the rest of the northern plains have kind of ended the storm by that point. But what we're dealing with is a low pressure up in the UP of Michigan. We have an inverted trough, which indicates a V-like shape in the isobars. That usually means that you have either a cold front or convection along there, which can spur up some thunderstorms for some of these regions. And especially as you get down into this region, I think you have the best shot of seeing some thunderstorms out of this storm. And notice also how close together those isobars are, which are those lines on the screen. You can definitely tell that it will be windy, where you have a warm southerly flow and then a very cold westerly or northerly flow on that back end of there. So definitely we are dealing with a very dynamic system, a lot of different moving parts with this system. So let's kind of break it down for you guys. So here's what the GFS shows. It shows that by 6 a.m. Central Time tomorrow, we're dealing with most of this rain heading off to the east, and this would be right around 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Tomorrow, actually this would be tomorrow, where we're dealing with that rain from everywhere from the Appalachians eastward. You're dealing with rain, and then just west of the Appalachians, we're dealing with some snow on that back end, and then even you're already starting to see those lake effect machines turn on for portions of Michigan, where you guys are dealing with those strong northwesterly flow of wind, and that's going to allow some snow, and that's usually actually one of the prime positions for some snow if you live along Lake Michigan, where you can actually get quite a bit of good lake effect, especially for the western half of the state. And then you start to see some real big thunderstorms potentially pop up for portions of Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and maybe even into South Central Virginia there. And then as we continue this forward, the snow really starts to take over, mainly because we're going into the overnight hours on Christmas Eve, which would be tomorrow. And by the way, I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas if you do celebrate, and hopefully you guys are enjoying the holiday season, and hopefully you guys are getting together with your families and celebrating Christmas or whatever holidays you guys celebrate. And I also want to wish you guys a Happy New Year. I'm going to try and upload throughout this entire holiday break, so my uploads will actually probably be a little bit earlier because I don't have school for the next about week or so. So expect some earlier uploads as well, and I'm going to try and put out a video and try and plan out a video probably by tomorrow, and I'll try and upload that for Christmas Day, so I still have an upload on for Christmas. So don't worry about me missing any uploads. I'll probably try and upload straight through the holiday season. So this would be by early on Christmas morning. We're dealing with some snow moving through portions of the eastern Ohio Valley. We have that low pressure up in Virginia with those strong southerly winds, which are only going to intensify because they're coming out of the southerly direction, which could mean that we're going to see all those winds just going over a flat area, which usually is the best way to get those winds to really pump up, where you can actually get them going over a flat area like the ocean, where you don't really have any obstructions there. You don't have any land masses that it has to go over. So those winds are going to be funneling through the Atlantic and then kind of just hitting the northeast coast. So if you live within this region, definitely try and tie down any loose objects you have outside, and that will really help with any problems with stuff blowing away during the storm. As we move to right around 1 a.m. on Christmas, and then this would be Eastern time, and then 7 a.m. on Christmas, that snow is now moving to the east, so is that rain and potentially those thunderstorms, which by this point are making its way all the way up into New England, potentially. We'll have to see about that. That's definitely a possibility for that to happen, and definitely that is something that we have to keep our eye on. And now, as we continue this forward, you start to see this system really starts to move out. Most of the thunderstorms are offshore or over easternmost New England, and then again that system really moves out. The only thing that's really of significance is watch out for a couple of flurries or potentially snow squalls over portions. I would say probably if you live within actually this path right here, because if you live within this area, you're getting that northwesterly flow, and if you live anywhere within here, be careful on Christmas Eve, or actually Christmas evening and into the day after Christmas, where you could be dealing with potentially some snow flurries or snow squalls moving throughout that region. So definitely pay attention if you do live within that area. And then again, that system moves out, and we're really into a much drier pattern after this. So here's what the GFS shows for snowfall. Anywhere in the grays, under an inch to 2 inches, 2 to 6 inches. In the blues, 6 to 10 inches, or even more in those purples and pinks. Now you see the main area of snow centered over West Virginia and into western Pennsylvania and that region, and then some heavier pockets where you might get a little bit of lake effect. Now here's what the European model is showing, and we're looking at that area shifted westward, and also you're dealing with those heavier snowfall amounts over portions of northwesternmost Pennsylvania, northeastern Ohio, southwestern upstate New York, where you guys will be dealing with a lot of lake effect, and potentially you could get closer to 10 or 15 inches of snowfall, depending on exactly where those bands of lake effect set up. And then we also see, again, those heavier numbers out closer to Minnesota, Wisconsin, and the UP of Michigan. And then here's what the National Weather Service is showing, and you can tell that their amounts are lower, and I actually kind of mirrored their amounts because I do agree with their amounts quite a bit. I think mainly it's going to be a 3 or 4 inch accumulation, probably nothing too major. It'll look nice on the ground for Christmas morning, because most of the snow should actually fall early on Christmas Day, where you're still sleeping, or it should fall Christmas Eve at night. So really, for Christmas morning, you're not going to have too many travel issues, except for maybe those road plow, the snow plows on the road still trying to clean up from the storm. Other than that, you're not going to have a lot of issues except for that cold weather. So that's definitely the only real thing that I can come up with in terms of travel disruptions on Christmas morning. morning. Other than that, if you live in New England or over the Northeast, you guys could be dealing with a little bit of rain snow mix, but definitely it's not going to be anything of real significance. Now here's the maximum wind gusts from the European model, and you can see where those winds just kind of move up through the Atlantic. You see a lot of heavy wind gusts closer to 60 or 70 miles per hour over portions of the coastal Northeast and the surrounding states. So definitely take precautions if you do live within that area, especially where you see those reds and even those browns show up. This is where you're getting closer to 60 or 70 miles per hour. This map is in knots, so in miles per hour, these digits and numbers would actually be even a little bit higher than what you're seeing right now. And here's your severe weather threat, because we do have a severe weather threat with this event. We have a marginal risk for portions of the central Gulf states, and then for southern Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama, as well as the western panhandle of Florida, we're dealing with a slight risk. Now, here are your individual risks. You have a 5% chance for tornadoes in that brown region. You have a 15% chance of damaging wind in that yellow region, and then a 5% chance of hail over western Louisiana and eastern Texas, and that's where you're dealing with a 5% chance of some hail potentially. Now, here's what the Storm Prediction Center does for the day 2 outlook. So this would be for today into early tomorrow. Here would be for tomorrow into early on Christmas morning. And we're looking at actually a marginal risk for portions of the coastal southeast and even a little bit interior of the coastal southeast, and then also for portions of the coastal Carolinas. That's where you're looking at a slight risk of severe weather, which you really don't see too often this time of year. For pretty much anywhere in the U.S., it's very rare to get these types of severe weather events late in December. And then here's your tornado risk, 5% chance potentially for the eastern Carolinas. Here's your wind risk, 5% or 15% chance there, and then no real big chance of any hail for those regions as well. Now, here's what the European model does for moisture, because we definitely have an ample amount of that, and definitely we won't have any trouble supplying any moisture. And also, look at that, we have some very dry air behind the system. So on the back side of this, we're going to be dealing with some very, very cold, dry air that should definitely help definitely with such a moist and warm day on Christmas Eve. It'll definitely be a nice relief to have a much cooler day on Christmas Day. And then as we look at your CAPE, your actual energy in the atmosphere, we're looking at maybe 100 to 300 or 400 joules per kilogram. So that's really not too much. Usually you want above 500 at least. So we're really not seeing too much, except for extreme eastern North Carolina. You guys definitely have the possibility of that, and that's where you had that slight risk in play. And then here are your high temperatures, because we definitely have some warm air ahead of this cold front, where you're looking at some potentially into the upper 60s. So definitely that is enough to support a decent thunderstorm at least. And here's your chance of excessive rainfall. So here before today into early tomorrow, we're looking at a marginal risk 5 to 10% chance over Louisiana and Mississippi. Here are your chances of your day 2 excessive rainfall outlook, and this is for Christmas Eve into early on Christmas morning, where we're looking at actually a slight risk for the western, or actually the interior mid-Atlantic, and then back through portions of the Northeast there, where you're looking at potentially some snow melt and rainfall added on of maybe 3 or 4 inches. That's definitely going to be a big issue there. And then that slight risk shifts a little bit further to the east over New England, where you guys are looking at a 10 to 20% chance of some flash flooding. Now, here's your quantitative precipitation outlook from the Weather Prediction Center. So this includes rain and snow. So the snow, if it were to be melted down, how much liquid that would get. But generally, this is a good indicator anywhere east of the Appalachians of how much rain you're getting, because it should stay all rain for you guys. And we're looking at a couple of pockets where you're maybe getting closer to 4 or 5 inches in portions of Pennsylvania, upstate New York, and maybe even into western New England. So definitely you could see a couple pockets of heavier rain, and that's actually right on top of that area of heavier snowfall and heavier snowpack that'll be melting away as well. So definitely there are some flooding concerns over those areas of Pennsylvania, upstate New York, southern Vermont. Those areas could have some flooding concerns. Now here's my forecast for this event and my snowfall forecast. So this is going from now until Saturday, which would be the day after Christmas. We're looking at under an inch of snowfall for a lot of this region, from the northern plains back through the Great Lakes and then down through the Ohio Valley and then into the interior Northeast. Not expecting too much throughout these regions, maybe just a couple flakes, maybe not even touching the ground or really accumulating at all. This is where you could just get maybe possibly again some flakes late on Thursday into early on Friday, or maybe you get a light accumulation on the ground, but nothing again too major. But you start to get into a decent accumulation as you're into that 1 to 3 inch area, and that's for the northern plains from Nebraska into Wisconsin and the northern UP of Michigan, as well as for portions of the Great Lakes, the Ohio Valley, and then back through the interior Northeast, especially in some of those areas with higher elevations. You guys could be looking at over an inch of snowfall, maybe for portions of the Ohio Valley and into the northern plains, closer to 3 or 4 inches of snowfall, 3 to 6 inches of snowfall for portions of the northern plains back through western Michigan, and then down into the eastern Ohio Valley, where you guys are looking at over 3 inches of snowfall and maybe as much as 6 inches of snowfall, depending on exactly how the storm sets up. Here's that 6 to 12 inch region, and that's for portions of northeastern Minnesota, northern Wisconsin, the UP of Michigan, and then back through northwestern Michigan, where I think you could get a couple of bands of pretty good, decent snowfall to last throughout that region, where you could get some decent lake effect, as well as a couple more pockets of lake effect along Lake Erie, and then back through into portions of upstate New York, and a little bit of elevation there just east of the Great Lakes. That's where you guys could look at maybe 6 to as much as 12 inches of snowfall in some cases, and maybe even a little bit more than that, probably 12 to 14 or more inches of snowfall in these regions for Ohio, Pennsylvania, upstate New York, and then back through into the UP of Michigan, where you guys could definitely get some decent lake effect, and I think there's a fairly good shot of you at least getting closer to 11 to 13 inches of snowfall or more. If you like a personal forecast, or you just want to know how much snowfall for your area that I'm expecting, then leave a comment down below, and I'll try and break down the forecast for you guys. And I usually respond within about an hour or two of you posting that comment, and most of the time I'm actually responding to you guys even earlier than that. So if you did enjoy the video, please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turning on notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.